Have you ever had your bank account locked by a pre-authorization payment? You're worried you might get several £100 locked, meaning payments and direct debits might bounce? You should be worried. This is an absolute scandal and you need to know what is happening. Dave takes it on as investigated and is definitely not happy. In fact, outraged. When you buy something in a shop, over the counter or at a till, you offer your card, maybe contactless if the total's less than £100, and when you tap or enter your PIN, the shop immediately allows you to leave with your products or goods. There and then, no waiting, no checking, your card beeps and the payment's authorised. Now for shops without instant processing, and there are many, they normally have a house limit, say £50. So if your purchase is less than £50, they know that the card bank will pay them and the bank will chase you for the payment if it bounces. In either case, they will allow you to leave the shop with your goods. When you charge your EV at a public charge, you forget all of that. They treat you like criminals. First, when you tap your card, they check if you have any money in your account. Well, I'm sort of okay with that. If I top up, I can hardly hand the electricity back if my payment card is then refused. So to avoid that happening, the charger companies, BP, GridServe, Ionity, etc., they all apply a pre-authorization charge. That is where they will block or lock a specific amount of money that is in your account that is normally enough to cover however much electricity you put in. And it's here that things get messy. Each company pre-authorizes an amount that you should not be able to exceed. By the way, this problem is far, far worse at petrol stations. The biggest EV battery in the UK is probably around 100 kilowatt hours. So if they charge an extortionate 79 pence per kilowatt hour, you're unlikely to ever exceed about £70. With an ICE car and a big fuel tank, you could easily fill up with £150 or more. So many petrol stations take a £130 pre-authorization charge. Yeah, stop laughing, all you ICE owners. You get it much worse than us EV drivers, and you've been doing this for years. Oh, by the way, if you don't use the on-pump card reader but go into the shop to pay, there's no pre-authorization. Your payment is taken and processed instantly. Well, some charger networks take just £10 or £30, but legally they can take up to £130, which is the maximum they are allowed to in law. So far, well, not too much of a problem, or is it? Well, that depends on when they release that pre-authorized amount. Now, you must understand the charger network does not get your money. It's still in your account. It's just locked in there. Nobody can touch it, not even you. It's still there, just unavailable. So when does it disappear? When is it released back to you to use? Well, I've already spoken to several high street banks and all say exactly the same, and I'll show you the Barclays website up above, which is really clear. In plain English, it says it will disappear when you have finished using their services. So does that mean when you finish charging? Absolutely not. This bit gets the frightening bit. Legally, you've finished using their services only when you have finished charging and they have received your payment. Now, for all of you who thought contactless was instant, think again. In a shop, it is or can be, and in some chargers, it is or can be, but in others, it might not be. In fact, never is with some charger networks. And legally, they too can pre-authorize up to £130. Whoa. So what's the punchline? Well, the reputable charger networks can and should process your payment immediately or almost immediately. Less reputable or efficient networks don't always process your payment immediately. They can often take 2 days and as much as 10 days before they process your payment. Now, I can sort of understand a busy garage with hundreds of customers all using their contactless cards and wanting to process them all in a single batch at the end of the day. Well, that sort of makes sense and is, well, perhaps okay if every night the pre-authorized amount is returned to you to spend. But that's not a certainty. Barclays states that they can take up to 10 days before your payment is processed, totally legally. So picture the scene, you're on a road trip and the charging network you choose to use takes a £100 pre-authorisation. If you charge 3 times, say over a weekend, once on your way there, once when you get there, and then once on the way home, then they could block £300 in your account that you cannot now use for up to 10 days when they finally get round to processing your payments. But it gets much worse. I asked the bank why this doesn't happen at Tesco. I fill up a trolley with shopping, I go to the till, I pay £98 by contactless at the till. They don't pre-authorise it before I shop. Why not? I asked. Well, I did ask. Because they don't need to. When you use your contactless or physical card at the till, the terminal is connected to the internet and the payment is processed there and then. The screen in front of you states payment approved, and that means that Tesco now have your money and you're free to leave the store your shopping is paid for. Not so with some charger networks. Their chargers are obviously connected to the bank, otherwise they couldn't pre-authorise whatever amount they've decided on. But with some networks, your final payment is not done there and then instantly when you finish charging, but batched together with other payments and processed at a later date. And that could be 10 days in the future. They're not my words. This is Barclays and Santander words. And this is a scandal. They have chosen to have contactless terminals on their chargers that do not operate in real time. That's a choice, and that's a totally cynical one. So when does the pre-authorised charge disappear and you can then spend that money again? When the payment is processed, and this can only be seen if you have online banking on your mobile, tablet or home computer. If you look at your balance and the charging session actual payment is shown as pending, the pre-authorised charge, could be up to £130, is still there. You can't use it. When the payment goes from pending to processed, it will show as a cleared item on your statement with a reference number attached. At that point, the charge does disappear. Well, okay, before people get really angry, let me clarify. If you use the Charger Network app and you have supplied your bank details or card number or PayPal account or Apple Pay or Google Pay, then that payment will be instant and no pre-authorization should or will ever occur. If you use contactless at some, and I repeat some, charger networks, they are legally allowed to pre-authorize up to £130 for each charging session, and that will remain until the final payment is processed, and that can take up to 10 days. So says Santander. Well, this now requires another road trip for me. I know it doesn't affect me normally. See, my payment details are stored with Tesla, and the payment is made as soon as the session ends. I actually hear my mobile chime telling me I've paid before I even pull away from the charger. Well, that's efficient and decent. But I visit many non-Tesla chargers for my monthly EV charging price guide video, done over a few days, and just adding a few kilowatt hours each time to check ease of use, charging speed and power. And some of those networks do charge £100. Well, I could easily run out of money really quickly. What? No more donuts? Well, I'm lucky I can always get a charge at a supercharger, but many will not be so lucky. Their current account could be effectively locked, even though there is plenty of money in there. Now, I'm not going to let this rest. Name and shame is now the target. I will be visiting all the networks and deliberately use their contactless. I'm going to keep an accurate record and see what is happening and identify the good guys and the bad guys. I will use contactless while my online banking app is open, and I'll see if a charge is applied and how much. I will then complete my charging session and disconnect, ending the charging session, then watch my bank account for when that pre-authorized amount is released. I am never one to prejudge. My regular viewers will know I just get out there and try it for myself. I have my fears about this, but I'll keep them to myself and go get the facts. That video will be released before the end of the month, so please subscribe and click the bell icon so that you don't miss it when we release it. Also, please consider becoming a Patreon member. For all non-members and non-subscribers, you get all this information. It's absolutely free in the video, and it will be filmed at a specified charge on a particular date. For Patreon members, you'll have access to a compilation chart with all this information on it in an easy-to-read format, and I will update it regularly as and when necessary. Plus, there's loads of other goodies. Thanks for watching. I'm Dave.